So now we get into actually converting the print content to online content. So the first thing we're going to do here is go step by step through the magazine, starting with the front of book. We're going to open this up in InDesign. You'll see in the front of the book there's really nothing in the way of images we need to deal with. Really that only becomes an issue in later versions or later sections of the magazine. So sometimes we get some odd previews here. Let's get on to our actual first page. Now the only thing we've got to do from front of book is the editorial and the inbox. Everything else is news, and that comes in via other means. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this content from the editorial. Okay, now we're going to go to our content management system, and I'm going to start the issue. And to start the issue, I'm going to go to Issue Archives, go to the current year, and then I'm going to right-click here and create document. And eventually, that will give me my interface for creating a new issue. So we're going to type in 1710 as our issue number, and then we're going to say October 2017 table of contents. And this is important because this is what will show up in your list of most popular resources when people view the table of contents. It's important that be in there. We're going to leave this as unpublished for now. And we're going to go to our customization panel. We're going to go to display options and deselect page title and save this document. That will show up here. Oh, and I forgot one other step. So let's go back and edit that first of all to make sure that that variable took. Sometimes it does not. So if I come back here and edit 1710, I need to make sure this is hidden from menus. That's the step I forgot last time. And then we'll come back here. Yeah, see, sometimes that won't take. So sometimes you actually got to go back and edit it to make sure that display page title checkbox is deselected. So now we've got our container ready for our issue content. So I'm going to right click on the container and we're going to create document. And this is going to be editorial. And I'm going to paste in all that content that I just copied out. We'll delete all this style information that comes in with it. I'm going to cut this and put this in as our long title. So you can see with columns, including the editorial, we put the name of the column or the editorial here and the actual title of the column or editorial here. Okay, so we're going to pull up our text here, make sure we're all where we need to be. Select that first character, give it a cap. We're going to scroll down here, make sure everything else is as it should be. Now we've got some footnotes down here, so we're going to put in a horizontal stroke between the content and the footnotes, and then I'm going to set this as an actual ordered list. Delete that number reference there, and then I'm going to go to the formatting tool, and I'm going to go to footnotes list, and that will form. You can disregard the sizing here. That's just a preview issue. This is all here. Now the next step, and this is really critical, we need to name every or provide a URL alias for every article we create here, and it goes issue number 1710. Helps if you type it right. 1710 dash page number, which is 5. So this is going to be 1710-5. That makes this unique on all the site, which is super important. I will go ahead and put published here. We're going to go to our customization. We're going to put in 5 for our page number. We're going to type in Bill Knott for our author. Some authors you'll have, most of them you don't anymore. And for our page type, we're going to type editorial and no content bucket for this one. And then we're going to go back here and save it. Okay, and that's going to be our first page of the issue. Now we're going to go back to InDesign and move on to our inbox. Go ahead and copy out all this content. Now this one's got a few extra little tricks we got to deal with. All right, so we're going to go back here, right click again on that container document, create document, and we're going to type 1710-6. Paste in my content again, delete this out, and for our headers, we're going to go to header 3. And for our author bios, I'm just going to pull that up and put in a line break as opposed to a paragraph break. And a line break is Shift-Enter as opposed to just the Enter key. And we're going to do header 3 on this one. Another line break, header 3 here. Another line break. This can get pretty tedious. Header 3 here. Another header 3 here. And another line break here. Okay, now where this gets interesting is we've got two elements in the inbox we have to deal with. We've got this sidebar that we need to deal with and this your turn section. So how I've dealt with this is I come down here and I put in a line and then I paste in your turn and simply apply a header 4 here. And then we're pretty much good in terms of what that needs to look like. And I don't worry too much more about that. Now the sidebar is a tricky business. The original intent was for you to be able to use this little clips dialog to insert a sidebar, but it simply doesn't work as it should and the content gets jumbled. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to send you an email containing a couple code snippets. And that will include a snippet for a sidebar. And then we're going to use this handy little embed tool, which will inject code directly into your source, so you're not actually going to have to view it. So you'll see this little code snippet in the email that I've sent, and you can simply paste it in here and click insert. You'll see it puts in your sidebar placeholder and you're ready to insert your content. So if we go back to InDesign, you'll see we've got two levels of headers and some content and the author name. Now typically I would just say copy this and paste it in here. But the problem is if I do that, it's actually going to put a paragraph tag inside the header, and you see you get a whole bunch of padding you don't really want. So instead of doing that, for sidebar headers, you're better off typing it in. Okay, the rest of it I'll show you we can actually paste in, but for the actual main header, you're going to have to type that in. So I'm going to grab this, paste it in. We'll have to get rid of this style text that'll come in every time you paste something. Grab the paragraph content. Paste that in, delete the style text. Second header. And for the authors, I like to pull them up and put in a line break. That's completely up to you. Again, we'll get rid of this. And then the last bit of content here. Okay, so with this in place, we can format these subheads very easily by just clicking on them and applying a header 4. So the main header is a header 3, those subheads are header 4. And again, I'll show you how that works. So just ignore the sizing issues you're going to see. This WYSIWYG is actually way out of date, and we haven't updated it because the new functionality is quite a bit different, and I haven't wanted to confuse you guys. So you're going to have to ignore these little quirks like this. It will show up properly when we save and view this file. So you can see we've got everything in place now. And we're going to go ahead and title this Inbox. We're going to go to our Customization tab, type in our page number. No author. Page type is going to be Department, and no content bucket. And then we're going to save this. And then once it's saved, let's go ahead and view it so you can see that it does indeed apply properly. Now you can see we've already got our cover here because we've uploaded it. And in fact, if I go to that table of contents, you'll see everything's here that we put in, the editorial and the inbox, and we just don't have our articles in place yet, which we're going to work on next. So next thing for us to do is go back to InDesign. We're going to close out front of book. And we're going to go and find our next section. So we'll go back to Dropbox. I don't know where you're going to have your stuff located. And we'll go back to our October issue, and we're going to go to our Discover section. And we'll go ahead and open that up. Now, I've already gone through and prepped the images for this. And how you handle this is completely up to you. If you want to take it one section at a time, or if you want to do the entire magazine at one time and then come back and do the content. But the point is, you've got to do the images first before you start installing content on the website. Make sure you prep all your images first. So I've gone through and I've already cropped out these images you're looking at here. And you'll see there's actually not a lot. I've gone ahead and prepped all of these as well. And I've created one for this, gotten a stock image for this, and cropped this one out. So let's go back and take a quick look at that. If I open up a separate window here, and we'll go back to my storage location here for our website materials. Okay, so in my folder here, you see I've got all these individual images cropped out, and I've got the header images in place. Now, I think you may remember, as you've worked on the site enough now, that our header images are all 1,000 pixels by 500, and our images for in-text are anywhere from 5 to 600 in width, and you can let the height fall how it may. In this case, I went ahead and cropped these as squares. So we've got all our headers in here, and they're ready to go, and I'm going to go ahead and upload these to our website server. Just drag them over here. Now again, it's really important you do the images first, and the reason being, when you go to select these in-text images in ModX, it will automatically go to the folder where these are placed. So that'll help you out a lot. Alright, so we're going to go back here and we're going to start a new article. We're going to go to Create Document. And then we're going to go back to InDesign, and we're going to go to the first story here. Copy all this content out, make sure it all got selected. And we'll paste it in here. Again, delete that lovely style text. This becomes our title. And get rid of these line breaks here. And this is going to be our subtitle, so we're going to put that into the subhead field. We're going to select our author, and we're going to apply author name. Bring up that line break, select our first letter, do our initial cap, go through here and apply our header 3 subheadings where they need to be. And we've got this series of footnotes down here, so I'm going to put in a horizontal rule. I'm going to select the entire list down to here. Well, let's go ahead and put in another horizontal rule here. I will surround the footnotes with a horizontal rule before and after. Then we're going to apply our ordered list and delete the actual numbers here so that they're applied programmatically and via the style sheet, as opposed, and this one did not work properly, get a hard return in there. You can see we've got some extra spaces in here. This can be quite tedious on longer lists, but unfortunately there's really no way around this. So I'm going to go ahead and clean all of these out while you yawn and get very bored watching. And then once we're done with this, we're going to go ahead and select the entire list again, and we're going to apply that style from the formatting palette for an ordered list, or a numbered footnote list. Okay, so here is our selection. Go back here, we're going to go to footnote list. And again, kind of ignore the sizing here. If this shows up, if any of the size variation shows up on the front end, let me know. I'll have to come in here and clean that out manually. There's really not much you can do about it. Okay, so that is pretty much ready to go here. We're going to go ahead and name this as needed. 1710 dash, I believe this is page 20. Let's confirm. Looks like that is indeed page 20. We always go by the start number of the article. Okay, and then we're going to move on to, we'll go ahead and click publish. We're going to move on to our customization. Give it our number. We don't have this author on file. And now, the first article of each section, the first article of each bucket, as we call it, in this case it's Discover, we call it a feature. And that's important. All the other articles in this section can just be called articles. But this very first one in each section needs to be listed as a feature. Okay, and that's going to help the table of contents sort properly. And then for our content bucket, we're going to select Discover. So this is all ready to go now, and I can go ahead and click this to save it. We'll go back and do blurbs here in a second. I just want to make sure this shows up as it should. Let it reload here. And then we'll take a quick view. And there is our article, all good to go. And you can see it all worked except for this one little section here, which I'll go in and clean that out. In fact, I'll show you how to manage that. That can be a giant annoyance, and unfortunately the only way to get around it is you've got to open yourself up to viewing the source, and you can see the problem we've got is right here. Got this font style in place which should not be there. And again, that might be something you don't want to mess with, and I'm happy to help you out with that. If we come back here and reload, we'll see that is back down to the size it ought to be. All right, so this is ready to go, and then we're going to look here at our InDesign layout again to see if there are any pull quotes. We see we've got one here, and there aren't really any in-text images here. So we're just going to come back, edit our article, and get to a decent location here. We'll paste that in and apply blurb aligned right and save that. All right, so this article is done, and really every article in the issue is going to be a repeat of that process, the only difference being if we've got in-text images. Now sometimes articles in the issue will require some fairly extensive customization. You see we've got this Protestant Reformation timeline here. And this one's going to require very different treatment than a typical article will, and in this case we're probably going to have to make some sacrifices in that we can't really repeat this timeline, so we'll just have to use the date references for those particular entries that we have here. Well, I guess we do have a date entrance or a date entry for each one, so we'll put those in, and I'll show you how to do that here shortly. And then we've got the columns, which are very simple, and another sort of strange and difficult one, because this is actually supposed to be a little quiz, and I think we'll probably just have to forego repeating these little elements and put in just the normal content. Then a fairly normal story here, and another fairly normal story here. So I'm not going to go through and repeat this process for every story. What I'm going to do is treat those that are a little bit unique and show you the strategies I would take to treat with those, or to treat the content for those particular articles, and maybe that'll help you at least get started. So I've created this timeline of Protestant Reformation article, and you can see I've got some formatting in here. We're applying the 3-line cap to the entire date, and then we're putting an image here with a special class that we've got to float them and make them small on the right hand side. And to show you how that works, I'll just run this last one here. And you see we've got a horizontal rule between each of these. A horizontal rule is really useful because it also kills our float. So if you've got something floating to one side, this will make sure that it clears and nothing floats again to the side of that. So looking here, our next image here is for 1888. And that is right here. So we're going to do, well, Seventh-day Adventist Church is officially organized. That's 1863. So the first thing we're going to do here is put in our line to break that down to 1863. Select that 3-line cap. Next one, hard line again, or horizontal rule. Now, before I put in the date, I want to put in that image. So I'm going to select an image using our Insert Image tool. If I go to the Choose link, you'll see they're all here waiting for me. I'm going to click on this one, then I'm going to click on this and click Edit, and then I'm going to put in the special class image-thumb-right and save. You can see it bumps her over there where we want her to be, and now we can come back here and enter the date, which is 1888. So 1888, and select those numbers and apply our 3-line cap. And then our last one here is going to be soon, and again our 3-line cap. You see everything's already here, and this is just one of the odd formats you're going to run across, and this is one way to tackle it. And it may be that as you run across articles like this, you may need to have me help you out with some of that stuff, at least at first. So if we view this, you can see here is our timeline. And that works about as well as we could expect it to, given the custom formatting of the print edition. Okay, so the next article is going to be this one here, and again I'll go ahead and get the formatting in place and then show you what we've done to make this work. So I've built this before and after article, and I went ahead and inserted these little input boxes and the before and after text, and formatted it very similar to the timeline. We've got a 3-line drop cap for our number, and our content, and a horizontal rule to divide between them. And you can see in the front end, it gives you the option of actually clicking in these boxes, and it doesn't really record anything, but it allows the user to actually mark a selection and then check their answers. Now the answer box, let's flip over here to InDesign. You can see we've got this bunch of text inside of a gray box. Well, we have a bit of a tool for that, and you're going to see a snippet of code in the email that I've sent you for what's called a sidebar full. And I'm going to quickly grab that snippet. And then we're going to do what we did before. We're going to put in a line. We're going to use this embed tool. Sorry, that's the insert image tool. This embed tool here, and paste it in. Now, really important here, if I were just to go ahead and do this, you're going to see I get my title and I get my content. But if I tried to delete this, I'm stuck with the title, and I don't want that. So what I'm going to have to do is delete the title here and just paste in that content block, because my article doesn't really have a title, it just has text. So we're going to paste that in. Simple as that. And then I'm going to select this and bold it, which may or may not show, and we'll save this. So then on the front end, we'll go ahead and reload this, and there is our gray box at the bottom. So a user can come through, they can check their answers, and then they can come down here and refer to them here. It's not spectacular, but it'll have to do the trick for this particular use. And I think that about covers the complex formats for this section of the magazine. This last article really doesn't include anything that's of special notice. So let's take a look at some of the other sections. Let's go to the Connect section of the magazine. I'll just run through the remaining articles here, which I've actually already created on the website. And we'll just look at things that might pose particular difficulty or require some very particular activities. So this first story is essentially just a photo gallery and a long sidebar. So if we go back and have a look at this online, you'll see here's our article. We've inserted a photo gallery, and we have a long sidebar here. And again, this is just making use of the snippet of code that I'll be sending you. We've got a header 3, we've got a header 4, and then each one of these actually is just a list item. So you can see this is actually applied as a list. So you could paste in text here and select it all, and then click your unordered list, and you'd get this formatting. And if we view this on the front end, see there is our header image, here is our photo gallery, which is quite elongated, unfortunately, and then that long sidebar. Alright, so that's pretty straightforward. If we take a look at the next article, again, very straightforward, nothing really to worry about there. Here is another column, nothing really special about that one in particular. Martin Luther, again, nothing of particular interest in this one. Pretty straightforward. Now this one actually is really challenging in that there's really no text at all. This is just a photo gallery. Now, I did do something a little bit different on this one. So let's take a look at that particular issue. Let's go to Reformation 101. Now, this is just a photo gallery, as I mentioned, but because, and let's take a look at this in the front end, because the text or caption for each image needs to be a little bit different. You see we've got a larger title and a little subtitle, and then the text for the actual caption. So if we look at that in our gallery snippet here, go back to, let me just bring up, for some reason my JavaScript isn't working properly. Now you'll see if I edit this, I've actually got inline code here. Now this is not ideal at all, but because this happens so rarely, I haven't set up full style sheets for this sort of application. So if you need something like this in the future, you can copy and paste what I've done here and edit the text, or if this is something we might be doing on a regular basis, I can modify the style sheets. But basically what I've done is I've created a span to contain the main title with a strong and font size included here in line. I know this looks really complicated. And then a line break, and then another span or strong to format that second text, and then the remaining text. And all of this is just one string of text with inline formatting. You might have to do that from time to time when you've got some very customized or specialized formatting like we do in this particular photo gallery. You see that's a really long photo. But most of the time you won't need to worry about this too much, to tell you the truth. So let's go back and have a look again here. We've covered all of this. This is all treated the same way as one big photo gallery. All right, so this is the Spirit of Reformation. So this is another somewhat unique article. Let's take a look at how this was handled here. We are As Hymns We Sing. All right, so this is just text, and then we put in a line, and then we've put in hard returns, or I'm sorry, line breaks, to deal with the line breaks between lines in each verse, and then a paragraph break between verses themselves. Nothing spectacular or particularly different about that, and you can see how it works here. And you'll notice as you go through this, a lot of this print formatting is pretty much impossible to duplicate without a considerable amount of work we don't want to get involved in. So we just do the best we can with the tools we have. All right, so this is the Engage section. That's another pretty straightforward story. We've got this fasting article, and in fact, this is just another sidebar where this would be heading 3, and this is just going to be list items. And for the article itself, in the on the website, these 2 first letters I've just applied as drop caps, as you'll see if you go and look at that particular article. Again, nothing particularly interesting here. Nothing particularly interesting here. All very straightforward articles. Closer look. Okay, that is a little bit different, so let's go take a look at that one. The closer look does tend to be a little bit more challenging than some of the others. So we've got your main title, and then we've got what we have, what we've designated as a section heading. So instead of applying a header tag here from the formatting toolbar, we've selected this text, and we've gone here and we've selected this section heading. And this creates both a heading text and the stroke that goes above it. And then this is a heading 4. And then we put in our image and floated it over here to the right. And we've done the same thing with the second one. Now you see, because we were looking at it in such a wide format, the float breaks. It does not look right at all. But if we look at this in the front end, you can see it works as expected. So you've got each one of these with that section heading applied, and then a heading 4, and then the content, and your image floated over there to the right. I think that's pretty straightforward. Okay, so anything else we got to deal with here? Ah, yes, the voices section. This is another one that can be quite tedious in that each one of these sections ends up being its own little block of text with a stroke in between. So let's go back and take a look at that on the back end. All right, so you can see is exactly what we've done. We put in a hard line break for the author, and then a horizontal rule to separate the quotes, and it's just a long list of quotes. And that's what this voices section tends to be more often than not. And you can see it just comes through this way. It's not, again, not an ideal solution, but really the best we can do without a lot of customization we don't want to get into. So that pretty much covers the magazine. If we go back to our website here, we'll see we've got all that content in place. And if we were now to view our container document, you'll see we get a table of contents, and all of our stuff is automatically listed there, and we're good to go. So there's really only one more step that we typically take here, and that's we go ahead and edit this container document. And under the Customization tab, we're going to go to Issue-Specific Customizations. And you see there's a checkbox here, Issue Ready for Editorial Review. This is something we built in a long time ago. And all this does is ensure that when you load up your dashboard and you first log in, that this is the issue that you see under the current issue. So you've got more direct access to these articles if you need them. And really that covers it, man. If there's anything you run into you need help with, let me know. Happy to support you as you go. And I'm sure you run into some issues or some formats that we just really don't have a tool set for, and I'm happy to help you get those customized. So just keep in touch, okay? Thanks.